Om. 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 Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam.
Sai Ram, and good evening to all the Sai devotees of Sai Sparshan for the 35th online session of Sri Satya Sai Satsang. Actually, it's a forum where Swami enables us to talk about various points as per Swami's prompting. Because everything is Swami's prompting. And without Swami prompting, we cannot do anything. And in Puranas also, actually, there has been a lot of discussions and debates as to among the so many hundreds of deities, who is the most all-powerful. And then between the god of Agni, that is fire, god of air, that Vayu, then Surya, Chandra, and Earth, and all these things, there has been a competition. And then God appears in the form of a small grass, piece of grass, and then asks fire, the Agni Deva, to burn it. With all its might, Agni Deva could not burn it. Similarly, asked Vayu Deva to come and blow it away. He could not blow it away. And he asked the Varuna Deva to shower the rains on it, so it is washed away. He will not be able to wash. Oh, Indra, again, the god of clouds and heavy rains through Varuna, he cannot do anything. Therefore, like this, all the mights of even the various devatas are subdued even to just move a small piece of grass little bit. Oh, when that is so, we, ordinary human beings, at our own levels of our devotion, at our level, small levels of humbleness, we really do not have any so-called might or powers or intelligence or even the power of the thinking and even think of speaking and the power of speech. All these things is granted to us by the divine mercy of Swami. Swami, that's why he says, I have kept great trust in you. Although we form not of trust, name it as trust. And we say it's in the name of Swami's trust, name of Sri Sai Baba trust, and Tirupati trust, so many things. But Swami says the trust formed by you are all by some few people joining and making some kind of assemblage. But the real trustee is Swami himself. He says, I am trusting you more than you people are trusting me. That means the most trustworthy person is Swami, and the person who instills trust in us, who makes us trust other people and makes us do things as per his prompting is all Swami. Therefore, we dedicate today's satsang session to the name of Swami and saying that everything is Swami's sankalpa, and according to divine plan, all the activities, whatever has been planned, by the Sai person and the Sai organizations all over the world, particularly in the last 1 year of our this corona and the epidemic kind of onslaught. We have been noticing a lot of such kind of the chaos and the environmental kind of attack, and that is making, in spite of this, what has been going on steadfastly by Swami's grace, particularly in Sai's person, the 75, 76 sessions of the online bhajans and 35th session of online satsang today is a great, I would say, tribute to Swami and the blessings that Swami has showered on all of us. And about that's keeping that as His merciful grace on us, we continue today's topic. And for the topic, a lot of collections have been made from different Swami's discourses and talks. And one noteworthy thing is we'll have few shlokas selected from different books. One is all of us are knowing Sri Shankaracharya's Bhajagovindam. From that, for the satsang, Swami Shankaracharya said, and even Swami repeats this as a bhajan, Satsangatve Nisangatvam, Nisangatve Nirmohatvam, Nirmohatve Nischala Tattvam, Nischala Tattve Jivan Muktihi. This summarizes the very purposes, the perspectives, and the objectives of the Sai Satsang. Because through this satsang, it creates a kind of an environment where you lose the desires of all things. That means the topic of the ceiling of desires that will be met through satsang. Instead of you are doing something else, instead of you are going and watching TV or something else, if you come and sit during the satsang bhajan session, then your other interest gets little reduced. And then when you lose some interest, then your desire, cause of desire is reduced. And when you lose that cause of desire and attachment, then you will have the steady knowledge. And when you get steady spiritual knowledge, then through that you will also achieve Sayujya or the Sai Moksha, Moha Kshaya. And therefore, this is starting the introduction for the satsang. And then there are a few Swami's quotes. Swami says, say no to your senses. Say no to your senses that run helter-skelter. For that which shines and is bright looks very attractive. It can burn you to bare ashes. Be careful, beware of that. Stay in the coolness of the radiance of my form and my name, and tie the garland of my names, like the Ashtotara and Sahasranamas. Tie the garland of my names all over and around you, not just the garland of few flowers, and either putting that garland on the god or on you is of no use. Tie the garland of my names all over and around you. And when your senses begin to race, to overcome each other, to compete and win, the power of my name will simply crush the effect of the senses and kill them, so that you remain desireless. No more desires, no more worries, and let it be only me, me, and me. If at all you have any desire, it should be only for me, and me, says Swami. And one more quote, Swami says, most of you confer upon yourselves a title of getting to know me. Most of you confer upon yourselves, like in a convocation, a title after getting to know me, after I am just seen me, after I just visited my mandir or Prashanti Nilayam, that you are a Sai devotee. That's what proudly most of us we proclaim. And we say, I am a Sai devotee. And that's how we introduce ourselves to others. And that's how we try to take the benefit of calling ourselves a Sai devotee. Once this word is known to you, you walk around parading that you are a Sai devotee. This is a word of caution for all of us. Once this word is known to us, you walk around with it, flashing it and displaying it with a badge or a banner or even a kind of a scarf, and flashing it and displaying it as if it was a proof of your virtues, of character, that you are a Sai devotee. Merely a word attached to you does not touch me. You may call yourself a devotee, senior devotee, great devotee, all sorts of titles. It does not touch me. It does not call me. All the visits to the temples showing that you are a very great devotee, going to various temples, circumambulating the various deities, and doing it number of times to pranamas, does not impress me. If you say I have done 108 circumambulations and done that number is not to impress me, unless you have realized that the temple lays within, the real God dwells in your own heart. Your heart is the temple, and the God lays within, which is to be kept clean and love, clean and pure. If your heart is not clean and pure, what is the else of doing all other things for a physical or a kind of mechanical action? All your actions must scream the word devotee, not your lips. Instead of your lips saying, I am a devotee of Swami, your actions should scream. It should make people ask, are you by chance Swami's devotee, Sai devotee? Others should ask, not yourself claim. For then and when you are truly devoted to me, all the paths become clear. Now we are walking in the confused path, the confounded path. Then, when you become truly devoted to me, all the paths become clear. There is no confusion, only fusion of ideas, no confusion. Then you serve me in all others around. Then you don't have to go and search where I have to serve. Whatever work you do, whatever service you do, wherever you do, whomever you do, you will be serving me in all others around, because I am in every one of them. And I then become indebted to your love. Not only you can call yourself as a devotee, I will call you, I will embrace you, I will herald you, I will crown you, saying that you are my devotee and I am indebted to your love. Touch me with your love. Nothing else can pierce me. Nothing else can touch me. Call me always with your eyes, because only your lips saying is not enough. Call me always with your eyes, concentrating from the heart, and then along with the lips, and impress me with your actions. And this is what Swami says as a kind of a introduction for the satsang talk today. Now, there are similarly a lot of things that come to us in the Vairagya Shatakam and also in the Iti Shatakam of Bhartrihari. And there again he says, what is the use of so much of wealth? Bhartrihari himself was the king of Ujjain and was the elder brother of Vikramaditya, King Vikramaditya. But he left everything else to become a sannyasi and a jignasi. And then, just one or two sentences about it. He says, many a times people think the Vairagya means reposing on a bedstone within a mountain cave during the intervals of meditation. Well, may I recollect with an inward smile the days of those afflicted through their petitions before they reach. They go and stand before the rich people and before the various employers and begging and to become rich, to become famous. Are those grown means through their minds being content with seeking enjoyments? Therefore, all the people, whatever they do, is only to seek enjoyment by working for somebody. The felicity of those whom contentment unceasingly makes happy. Because last week we were talking about the contentment, santrupti. Or, whereas the felicity of those whom contentment unceasingly makes happy is not interrupted, while cravings of those of greedy and confounded minds are never quenched. Such being the case, for whom did this Creator, the great God, create the Meru? The Meru means the mountain of God, mountain of gold. The Meru mountain representing inconceivable wealth of gold, but confining to itself the glorious potency of its gold. I would not covet it. I don't like to go to the Meru mountain. I don't need the mountain of gold as long as you can a mountain of love of Swami that will help us to restore the peace of mind and sublime bliss. And similar Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's one way of, and even we have seen in Swami, what we call Sai Sparshan. The very word Sai is Sparshan. Sparshan is touching, the touch of divinity. And the very word Sai is Sparshan, the very kind of name that has been given itself is such that when you use the word Sai and Sparshan, you are kind of touched by the divine bliss of Swami. And the power of the touch has been spoken in many, many Puranas, and even Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi, the Aurobindo, Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, our Satya Sai Baba, and all the known Sadgurus and the great, the avatars of God, there was just touching or sometimes darshan. Darshan also is an optical touch. It is not a physical touch, it is an optical touch. Whereas this physical touch of Swami many times and keeping his head on the Abhayhasta and on the head of the devotees used to be the greatest blessing. That Sparshan could transform them from all their sins, all their defects, and all the inanities. And let us pray Swami for this Sai Sparshan through the Satsang. Satsang also is a forum through which Swami can touch all of us and he can have that bliss of Sai spiritual Sparshan. We continue further. We go into today's topic. Here, today's topic has been again prompted by Swami. Swami in many talks used to say, see, bhojan, like bhojan for the body, bhajans for the mind, and satsang for the heart. And integration of all the spiritual activities are the spiritual sadhana. And this is a kind of a topic where most of the Sai devotees are aware of each of this. Not that it needs to be told, and it may appear repetition for many people, and as if we don't know, are we going on listening to this, or are we going on listening or talking about it? But one thing, as Swami has said, lot of our ritualistic activities, lot of our daily activities are repeated day and day, time after time, and that we do on doing. Why not? Similarly, spiritual sadhana, spiritual activity. The more time we listen, because even in bhajans, many a time, when people may come, yesterday they would have sung some Ganesh bhajan. Again today, when you start, somebody else who sing, they may not know yesterday's Ganesh bhajan. They may again start the same Ganesh bhajan. So unless that people are aware of what was sung yesterday or the list of bhajans, like in the Akhand bhajans. But Swami says, why are you bothered by which particular bhajan? Although for variety's sake, we want different varieties, different bhajans. But if the same bhajan by chance is sung by 2 or 3 more devotees and at the same day, even then all are Swami's bhajans. And therefore, the repetition of all is okay. And Swami gives a beautiful example. We'll start with what we call bhojan. And why are we talking about bhojan? We must ask, this is a spiritual arena. Why are you talking about bhojan when we have to speak about bhajans? What is the interconnection between the bhojan and the bhajan and the satsang? And Swami says, very much connected. Suppose you are not taken a bhojan or a food properly. Do you think you have the power to come and sit there for hours and sing Swami's bhajans? Our Swami used to say, first go and have food, first go and take bhojan, then you will have strength to sing bhajan. So bhojan became our eating food most important basic needs of our human being. And all of us know about it. And Swami was particularly, both Shirdi Sai Baba and our Swami were telling the devotees not to make upavasa, that means fasting. Swami never encouraged fasting. He says, when your body is fasting, your mind will not be strong enough. And therefore, fasting, although as one of the routines that people do, whoever has got that as a regular routine, who are used to it, fine. Otherwise, Swami was never encouraging them to do it. And bhajan is the most basic need of human being. Bhojan is the most important basic needs of human being. And because we have also heard about roti, kapda or makan as the basic need, the roti comes first, above kapda or makan. And therefore, that is food. Food is essential for the survival of the mankind. Hence, God created earth and before he created men or the people, he created the earth, he created the soil, he created the rain, he created the akasha, and he created the parjanya, the varuna, and the water, varuna, water, and the vayu, the god of air. And all these things are created so that on this earth and the fertility of the soil for vanaspati to grow, and also the krishi, what we call agriculture, to be done in order that crops are grown and the people can eat food. Because food was created before the people were created. And therefore, the people were created afterwards. So God had taken care of that. And that means food or the bhojan was created before people could even be born on this earth. And food sustains the mankind and gives energy to the body, mind, intellect, heart to grow and prosper. And that's why Swami sometimes used to jovially ridicule some students who are little fat or who are little well built. Yes, Tindipota. And Swami used to say that Tindipota not out of angriness, out of kind of his happiness. Swami used to love people who used to be little stout and, well, okay, being stout and physically aggressive, physically all right, and physically active. And therefore, he used to say Tindipota. And although Swami himself was not taking much food, either during his earlier days or even the later days, but he was never asking people to starve or take less food. He used to sumptuously feed the students and other devotees with food on various occasions. And above, particularly that students or devotees eat well. And sometimes, whatever you eat in the presence of God, or making it a Naivedyam or Nivedayam to God, that becomes prasadam. It is just not rice or some other mortals. It becomes prasadam. And when it is a divine prasadam, and when you eat it, you get all the energy in the body. And we would have seen in many temples, there are some temples where some devotees might even go when there are the prasadam being distributed. And therefore, including the Tirupati Tirumala temple, including all the bigger temples, we have seen prasadam counter and prasadam distribution is being done. And that prasadam is a kind of a blessing of God. And therefore, this what we call giving, when you are giving prasadam, you are also thereby distributing anna. Therefore, the anna santarpana, because anything dana, they say the distribution of food is one of the big danas, and the anna santarpana is done. And Swami made it as a Narayana Seva. And feeding the people, the particularly poor and the hungry, and Narayana Seva became one of the big movement, and under the Seva activities, the Narayana Seva. Because Swami used to say, satisfied body or stomach will do great jobs. Therefore, satisfy your body, quench or quell the hunger. And even this you have heard from the government slogan, Garibi Hatav, and then giving the people food. And Annadata Sukhino Bhava. It was one of our regular Sanskrit slokas and wish. Annadata Sukhino Bhava. Whoever feeds you with anna for that day or the food for that day. It could be your wife, it could be your parent, it could be your relation. It finally is God. God through all of them feeds us, and He is the real Annadata. And when He is the Annadata, we don't have to say Sukhino Bhava. See, what are we or who are we to wish Him Sukhino? But He says, through that, because directly God may not come and give you anna, but somebody else comes and gives you, and therefore it is a way of wishing Annadata Sukhino Bhava. And you cannot satisfy anyone as much as with serving food to the hungry people. Because only when hungry man is fed with food or the Naivedyam or the Prasadam, then he says, if you want to serve again more, take more. Like we do in Sai Sparshan also, when they say, take more, you will not be able to take more. Already you are consumed. And you say, Truptos me. And even the priests say, Truptos me. I am happy. I am contented. See, the word contentment, which should happen in all other aspects. But here, it happens immediately and reflectively. About, you will say, a person when he is forced food, no more please, thank you, it will be wasted, and we refuse. Which means you are contented, you are truptaha, santrupti comes there. I am full. Then, like this, when bhojan for the body is very important, it's okay. But after bhojan for the body, then what happens? the body grows, becomes stronger, becomes powerful, becomes, sometimes Swami used to say Pailwan. He used to become Pailwan. But when you become Pailwan, body alone, then what happens? You become arrogant, you become even a kind of a street fighter. For small things, you become angry, and small things, you become depressed, and all these things happen. If only the body grows, and that is what Bhojan does. And then what happens? Along with body, if your mind is not also growing proportionately, and along with it, if it does not grow, then what happens? Only body growth is no growth. Body growth is important, but along with mind has to grow. Then what is the food for the mind to grow? Then Swami used to say, bend the body, mend the mind. And Swami used to say, mend the mind and bend the body. And work hard with good body. And put full efforts. Use body to do good work. See, when our body has got the strength, do good work. Get good results. Earn food, earn all spiritual progress through your body strength. Then the mind. How to grow the mind? The mind, we all know, it's like the chitta. That chitta shuddhi is important, Swami says. The mind fluctuates. And many times we used to say kapi mind or kapi buddhi. Why we say kapi buddhi means it won't stick on one place. It will go on hopping from another place, one place to another place. Mind hops, mind fluctuates, mind is fickle-minded. And therefore, mind has to be kept in kind of proper balance. And there is no concentration. Concentration is taken away. And therefore, mind has to be brought back to a kind of concentration. And without concentration, we cannot do jhana, we can't do meditation. Because many attempts to control the mind, or what we call mind power, you have to have what is called concentration of mind through dhyana and meditation, and a lot of people follow this also. Whereas meditation and dhyana may not be possible for everyone. You may not be able to sit one place, an isolated place, in a solitary place, get some particular time, the Brahma Muhurtam, all these things, these stipulations are there for the meditation or the dhyana kriya. Many people may not be able to do. For the common people, what is that other sadhana? Is the nama smarana. The nama smarana is the contemplating and repeatedly on the name and form of God. And Swami used to say, not necessarily only Swami or Sai Baba. He is any of your Ishta Devatas or Kulaguru and even Swami. But Swami used to say, whichever form appeals to you, attracts you, you concentrate on that and divert the mind from worldly objects and desires and do the Namasmarana. The Namasmarana is repeating the Swami's name or Sai Gayatri or whichever thing through devotion. For all meditation only or alone is not possible. Hence requires solitary place, position, time, etc. For common people, then along with the Namasmarana, it became the next stage of Nama Sankirtana, that is era of singing God's name and the singing the glory of God in simple local language. And that's why lot of the great devotees started composing by the order of the God. It was the mandate of God that such people who are devotees, out of their devotion, they composed. Many of the songs and the bhajans today are composed by such great devotees with the inspiration and prompting of Swami. And therefore, that could be in the form of poem, it could be in the form of music, it could be some kind of tilanas, it could be some kind of kirtanas, it could be of any kind of their own convenience and which is melodious to listen. And we know about the Dasa cult. Or lot of dasas or dasa kirtanas called Purundara Dasa, Kanaka Dasa, Saint Tyagaraja, Kabir, Tulsi Dasa, Valmiki, sage Narada himself. Narada himself was a singing saint. And about Naradiya Bhakti. Naradiya Bhakti is propounded through him. And it can be sometimes the bhajans or the songs were locally tempered or rurally tempered. And there are different types of bhajans. And the Pandari bhajans, which Swami himself started singing in early days before he even proclaimed that he is Swami and he is God. Even from the earlier days, Swami used to participate in the Pandari bhajans and also encourage others to sing. Not only he used to lead the singing and he used to make others sing. And at that time, there was no particular stipulation of time. Anytime anybody wanting to go and sing, they could go and sing. They could participate. Swami said, bhajan is the property of everyone. Where is that place required? Where is the time required? Where is that kind of stipulation? All the stipulations you are making yourself. No stipulations. And Swami used to say, keep it free. When you are mind free, when your mind wants, go sing. Sing loud. And he used to say, never sing in a low voice. Sing loudly. Because when you're talking about God, let the entire world hear it. Let the world listen to it. Let the people around you, let them know. Let them listen. Don't feel, or if suppose my voice is so bad or shrill or what it is, or what is the effect. See, you are just the instrument to sing. You are not the singer. Swami says, if you think that you are the singer, you are not the singer. The best of the singers many times have failed to sing in presence of Swami. Their voice won't come out. They would have practiced for years and years. They are great singers on different platforms, but sometimes they will not be able to sing. So he says, Swami, I am the singer. I am the voice in you. I am your vocal cord. Now, he provides a propelling power of even singing. And therefore, it can be bhajans and sometimes what's called abhangas or medleys and various Meera bhajans, soulful, we have seen. And even Andal of our Tamil Nadu, she was doing the Tirupavai, the garland of the bhajans and the shlokas and in Tamil. And therefore, Anup Jalota's bhajans and others we have already known and very famous because of that bhajan touches your heart. And Ashtapadi of Sri Jagannath Kavi, and even we have heard about the Gauranga, the Chaitanya movement, the Sufi songs, and the Bhakti movement, all the simple, lucid, meaningful songs sung, composed by the prompting of God, and repeated by more persons rhythmatically. And the bhajans gathered little different steam after it became a Sai bhajan movement. And it was being repeated by more persons rhythmatically, became bhajans. So songs, where it is repeated by others, became bhajans. Bhajan became a community movement. It is not a single solo singer. In the songs and the music competitions and music kind of contest, it becomes one person singing, others listening. But in bhajan, Swami used to say, everybody is a singer. Maybe one person leads, the all others are repeaters, and all should repeat. Swami never used to want people remaining silent. Many a times, including the lead singers. Sometimes Swami used to notice, after their bhajan is sung, they used to keep quiet. They were not involving themselves in repeating the bhajans of other singers. No, Swami said everybody are co-singers, and one person may lead the bhajan as per whatever the plan, and later all are co-bhajan singers and repeat. And that's why the group singing became a kind of a higher activity. And the repeated by more people and rhythmatically. And when more people are doing bhajans and more repeatedly, that becomes a kind of a community singing. It charges the entire environment. That's how this Nagar Sankirtan and the Suprabhatam, all this became a kind of a community singing. And it not only cleans the people who do the singing, but the entire environment around them. Nagar Sankirtana Swami used to say, like sweeping the roads. You are sweeping the roads and the community by your spiritual movement of bhajans. Bhajans has got that power of sweeping the hearts and minds of people instead of only sweeping the dust on the roads. First, sweep the dust of your heart, sweep the dust of your mind. And Swami used to always say, clapping of hands. While you're doing bhajan, just don't keep quiet and say and repeat the bhajan in a low voice. Clap your hands. It should be a kind of encouragement, and it should be. Only thing is, your clapping of hands should be proper. You should have learnt it, but as long as you are doing as per the tala, little bit of knowledge for that is required and practice. And above, also some people used to sound the chitika, the talam, the mrudangam, the beri, the veena, the instruments. All these things Swami said in the bhajans it makes, because they are called the accompaniments, and that's called pakkavadyam. Pakkavadyam is the accompaniments. Only thing is, many times Swami cautioned, the pakkavadya sound should not be more than the main singing voice. Therefore, the bhajan should not get shrouded under the instrument sound. The instrument should be there, but not overpowering the voice of the singer. It should be a group singing, clapping of hands, chitika, talam, mridangam, beri, veena, instruction, because a lot of songs and bhajans are also there under this. Even each Swami's bhajan, if you can understand properly, maybe you can have a talk on each Swami's bhajan. If you can interpret it, it becomes satsang by itself. For bhajan and satsang are not two different entities. They are integrated with each of them. And added, it adds strength and diction and power to bhajan. And this is the effect of singing. The Panduranga bhajans or Panduri bhajans and the Ramakrishna bhajans of Ramakrishna Ashram, they all became famous and then became more powerful. And even Swami Shirdi Sai, they started doing kind of abhangas and the arati. The Shirdi Sai of arati songs are very popular. And the Suprabhatam Seva at Tirupati, Tirumala, Venkateswara Devasthana, Shri M.S. Subbalakshmi's Venkateswara Suprabhatam is world famous for more than 50-60 years. Similarly, Shri MLV, ML Vasantakumari's, Shri Rangapuravi Hara, that very famous song about from the Ramayana, which details the entire Ramayana very systematically. Even that became a very famous kind of musical entity. And Swami's bhajans started from early 40s and onward, became globally popular. Today, you visit any country almost, and there will be Sai Samiti and Swami's bhajans are sung very well. Even many of our Indian bhajans are sung by the foreign devotees very well and pronouncing the various Hindi or shlokas or the Sanskrit words very, very properly and sometimes more properly than our own Indian singers. And our Swami himself used to lead the bhajan, encourage all others to sing. This is what is very important for the singers. See, not only singing your song, you encourage others to co-sing, encourage others to sing. Our finally Swami used to say, in the group, I want everybody is a singer and everybody should sing and everybody, it is their right to sing and it is what should happen. As an overall movement, tomorrow if there are 20 singers in Sai Sparshan, if there are 100 people, the 100 people should become singers. 100 people should be able to come to satsang. And that's what should happen. Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Although numbers is not important, but this is what we call the overall integration and the overall involvement. That's what should happen. And no lip singing. And sing aloud. Why are you hesitating? Why are you little shameful? You don't have to have any shame. Become shameless. Swami used to say, become shameless when you are singing song of God. Clapping hands drive away sins. Even one more thing has been proved in the Puranas. When you are clapping with both hands, the two hands carry some of our so-called the whatever our kind of the verdict given by God and the papas and the punyas. And when you are both clapping both hands, the punyas get transformed and the punyas become more. And the papas line in the hands that we see as a palmist and all that, the certain lines of your papas or karmas, the bad karma, they get almost written off and it fades away, it goes away. So clap hands, clap properly and enjoy bliss. And Swami says, the yes, and then this clapping and hands drives away sins. Gradually, raga, tala, laya, shruti, bhava, variation, delineation, computation, and alapanas, and so many things added. And they added luster to the bhajan. But it is not the mandatory thing, it should be there always, all through. The main thing is the bhava. The as long as with devotion you sing, everything else will join. Because in Kannada, they used to say that harta harta raga and nalta nalta roga. That means, suppose you are going on suffering and then you will have roga, that means a disease. And if you are going on singing, that means harta harta raga. The raga by itself will come after some time. That's what I think in Sai Sparshan, a beautiful attempt is being done in training the various lady devotees, particularly the good accomplishment by Saraswati and group, which we have been seeing. And similarly, Balasubramaniam is leading the gents group, and it is already having a desired effect of training. And training means, are we that we are only trainers and others are learning? Trainer also is a learner. Learner also is a learner. Is a co-trainer, co-singer, and all of us are the learners. The training and improving practice sessions add values, attract also non-devotees. Our singing should even bring in people for walking in the road, who are going in the road. If they hear Swami's bhajan, they should be driven inside to find out what is this song, who is this Sai Baba, who is this, what is this Sai bhajans. And you should be able to attract others also into this, and they may remain Sai devotees later on. And that's what has happened to most of us. Most of us, we become Sai devotees through the Sai bhajans only. It is a spiritually motivated, all to commune together. It is the community should get benefit. Commune together to derive the divine bliss and peacefully in infinite measures. No limit, no quota, no ration, no kind of registration, no queuing, etc. for bhajans. Join Sai Bhajan, all enjoy Sai bliss, that Swami says. And another 2-3 minutes, we'll be closing this session, and after there will be a bhajan. And most bhajans will bring what we call the bliss, and bhajan is the most potent armament of Swami's kind of the overall activities. So bhajan becomes a star activity, and in today particularly more important in the chaotic pandemic situations of environment to come out of whatever we saw every day, the statistics about the number of people corona positive, number of people who are dead, and number of people affected in the entire country, all sorts of statistics. To keep us away from this, although we have to be careful. And in addition to that, the spiritual bliss and the spiritual bhajans, Swami bhajans, will be the biggest sensitizer for all of us. And for all devotees, it will also progressive upliftment will be there and development of all devotees. The proper cooperation, only thing in the Sai Samitis, as we have been already noticing in Sai Sparshan and Ratna, already it is in place and they are doing it well. The coordination, the proper cooperation should be there, coordination. It should not be thrust upon one or two single individual and then allow things to drift away. Instead of that, the cooperation, coordination, and the non-competition. That I'm a better singer, he doesn't sing well, his quality is not that good, he is not that proper, or he is not coming uniformly all right, or is not singing in a proper continuous manner. Therefore, instead of a kind of a competition, it should be a kind of a satisfaction to each person's, and they should be able to sing from their heart. And mental discipline, instead of somebody else correcting somebody, it looks bad. Mental discipline is you will know when you are not done certain things properly. Correct yourselves. Practice. Because more practice will make you perfect. Practice makes a man perfect. After bhojan, bhajans now something for the intellect. Now, after bhojan, bhajans for the mind. Now something for the intellect or the heart. That is, bhojan became that the anna yajna. The bhajan became the kind of bhakti yajna or the bhakti yoga. Now, the Gnana Yoga. Gnana Yoga is through the satsang, and that is called Atma Jijnasa. Atma Jijnasa, that is satsang, and seeking company of good and scholarly. In satsang, what Swami says, seeking company of good, scholarly, and spiritual elderly people through listening to Harikathas, Puranas, moral stories, chanting of the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata Parayana, Ramayana, Sundarakanda Parayana, Devi Saptashati, Lalita Sahasranama, Shlokas from Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, etc. And also reading from Sai Satcharita of Sri Sai Baba and some Satya Sai speaks, and also from Satyam Shivam Sundaram. All these things are going to help us in our spiritual kind of progress. And be in the company of good, Swami says. When you be in the company of good, you become godly. To become God yourself later. You become God being good. Parayanas help to drive away the mental and the physical sins, to keep our mind, heart, sublime, pure, peaceful, always. So, such chintan always will make you become a satsangi. And our satsang should make us satsangi and sai sangis. Integration of all the spiritual activities. Like we started that thing, the ending of this topic is the integration. How do we do integration? We do not isolate. That person who do bhajan, we do not have to sit for Veda. The person after Veda chanting, they go away. They don't sit in the bhajan. And after the bhajan, people don't sit in the, maybe say other activities, or may not participate in satsang activity. Instead of that, all these are composite factors. The bhajan, Narayana Seva, satsang, the Parayana, chanting of Vedas, etc., along with Grama Seva, Amrita Kalsham Seva, the medicine kit distribution, the clothes, the blanket distribution, the cool drink, the distribution of food at the old age home and the child home and the welfare center, orphanages, and serving the weak and the sick and the blind at the hospital and serving the patient. All this seva that is karma yogi. Because now we started with bhakti yoga, then we went to the Jnana yoga, then we went to karma yoga. All these things in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said, will take us to him. And we all become they go into the path of Sai Krishna only through all these things. For all reach Swami. In order we have to reach Swami early, we have to tread on this path and we have to activate ourselves and integrate all actions. And we let Swami give us that power to dedicate ourselves into it, and He will grant us bliss and grant us bliss, and He will give us what we lack instead of what we want. So with this, we are closing for today. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And let us pray for the Sayujya and the Sai Moksha from Swami. With one bhajan today, we are closing this session. Sai Ram, thank you.
Sai Ram. साई भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, साई भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, प्रेम भक्ति बिना उद्धार नहीं, गुरु सेवा बिना निर्वाण नहीं, गुरु सेवा बिना निर्वाण नहीं, साई भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, जप ध्यान बिना संयोग नहीं, प्रभु दर्श बिना प्रज्ञान नहीं, साई दर्श बिना प्रज्ञान नहीं, दया धर्म बिना सत्कर्म नहीं, दया धर्म बिना सत्कर्म नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं, साई राम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, साई राम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, साई भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, सुख शांति नहीं, सुख शांति नहीं. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram to everyone, all the Sai devotees who could participate. Let Swami bless all of us in all our daily satsang and sadhana activities. This being a sadhana month, Aradhana month, let Swami always bless all of us. Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Thank you.